Bum ba-dum ba-dum ba-dum. Bum ba-dum. All right, we're streaming. I'll go tell the world. Hooray. Streaming, game dev. Gonna build some gantries. Paste. So today what we're going to do is we're going to add some more mechanical features to our little game here. I need to have some wider varieties of stuff. And a big part of that is going to be just things like houses and gantries and stuff in the background. Now, that's not what I wanted to click on. Now, I know that in theory, I could go into the marketplace and buy some stuff, but it's busted. I broke it. I don't know exactly how. So we're going to build it ourselves for today. Besides, I doubt the marketplace has free gantries. It might. Who knows? But we'll build one ourselves anyway, because it's good practice. So I've got here a file that we're going to be turning into our buildings source file. And I've put in a human and a robot for scale purposes. And I've put in that temporary thing that we built for fence posts. But obviously buildings are going to be something else. If we take a look, there are a bunch of different kinds of buildings that we can create. But I think the first thing we're going to want to start with is the gantries that were created to move the mech, the teams of mechs onto the field. So a gantry is basically just a U-frame with wheels on the bottom. And it just kind of suspends the robot. So it needs to be large enough that the robot can be suspended from it. And we might be putting it on a vehicle or something later. We'll figure all of that stuff out. For now, we're just going to go ahead and create ourselves a little cube and then go in and pull it off to the side. We're going to want to add in a mirror modifier. And then just make it the right height, which is probably going to be about that high. Maybe a little bit higher. There we are. And then we will just turn clipping on and extrude in, and then delete that face. And that's roughly the shape of a gantry. It's beautiful, don't you think? Obviously, we're going to be taking some slightly more... it's not going to be shaped quite like we had it there. It's be a very ugly shape for it. So one of the things that we're going to need to do is take this bottom section and make sure that it can have some wheels to support the frames. Now, the way this normally works with a gantry is that this here is actually a thing that can be slid in and out of a mounting bracket so that you can make the gantry taller or shorter. Might as well keep that, so we'll just move it up a little bit. Now the gantry itself is almost never, for something this weight, it's almost never going to be just squares like this. We're going to have a lot of complexity to the way that this thing is structured. So we're just kind of blocking it out right now. We're going to add that complexity later. We got two basic options. One option is a single beam gantry frame, which is what you use for most kinds of gantries. But there's also ones that are substantially bigger for things like trucks or whatever. Those tend to have dual frames. We don't need those. We're not trying to lift a truck, so we're going to keep it with single frame. But we're going to want it to be cute. We're going to want it to be interesting to look at. Let's go ahead and model some wheels on it. Now I'm doing everything in increments because it's just my natural instinct. There's no reason for me to worry. Is it 0.68 or 0.69? Nah, just keep it to increments for now. We can adjust it more precisely later. So these wheels almost never look like this. They almost always look like heavy wheels that you would, just sort of wheels that you'd actually see on a car or whatever. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab this stuff and then scale it down. I guess we can scale it down according to ourselves. Yeah, that's fine. So something like this, but what we're going to want to do to make that into a wheel is delete this guy. Yeah, goodbye wheel. We're going to want to create some texture here so that the wheel has some grip to it, just because I think that will make it look a little bit more realistic. Hold on, I need to move some stuff around so that I can see on my other screen. Exciting. I think we're going to just increase the scale of these just a little bit and cut it down the middle like this, because in actuality what we're going to want to do is have a curve that comes down like this. I think the easiest way to do that might be to simply rotate the sides in opposite directions. So if I rotate this by 10, why is it not rotating? Come on. What the fuck? Oh, scale. Rotate X10. No. Okay, what the hell? Rotate X10. Okay, fine. Rotate X10. Okay, so it's broken again. What's going on here? Why is this being... I don't know what it's doing, but it is doing it wrong. Thank you. That wasn't so hard, was it? I can't see my hands when I'm recording, and presumably I was off by a key somewhere there over and over and over and over and over for the entire length of the recording. And anyhow, this particular part is not necessary. We're just going to get rid of it. Nope, don't just dissolve it. Oh, I guess it is necessary. It keeps this fleshed out. Otherwise, we'd have some mass loss. That's fine. So what we're going to do is we are going to put in the way that these elements are going to look like tire tracks. So to do that, we're just going to delete these faces, and then we're going to just select every other line. Now, there should be a way to do this easily. Guess what? There's not. There is sort of a way to do this easily. If I'd built the entire wheel with radial symmetry from the start, then each of these would actually be their own mesh, and that would be fairly easy. But if I had done that, then we would have some issues with the fact that they are curved like this, and it would just be a real pain in the ass. Anyway, bring those in, and then we're going to move them to median point, scale them down, like that. How's that? Seems like a little bit. So let's try bevel in 3. And then can we reduce? And then can we shrink just these? Interesting. There's something screwy going on here. Oh, it reverted this. Of course it did. That sounds like, why is this not working? There we are. That's better. That's more like what I had in mind. So now that we've got this, all we really have to do is beautify these faces. Can I get triangulate faces going? There we are. I think there is actually like a better beautify faces. No? Grid fill. There's a way to do this that is a little bit better. There it is. That's what we want. So we're going to go ahead and undo what we just did and do it again, but with the grid fill instead of beautify or whatever. Because the grid fill is a little bit more likely, less likely to screw up when we do some more complicated stuff with it later. So that's fine. That's what we'll use. They're on opposite axes, but that's fine. We don't care. Let's go ahead and shade smooth and then mark it as auto smooth. There we are. Whoa, did that work? That was a weird jump there for a second. I'm not sure what happened. All right. So you can see that the wheel, although I set it to smooth, it's got a really awkward situation where it's not really doing what we want it to do. The solution for that is probably to select all of these faces, or all these edges, and as you can see, it wonderfully selects them across the grid fill, which is what grid fill is really useful for. We can then simply mark them as sharp. Boop. There we go. Easy peasy. Now that does mean that we've got a crisscross of faces here that are marked sharp, but nobody cares. That's fine. Last thing we need to do is duplicate this and move it back like so. So we've got all the wheels we need. Now somehow, at some point, we lost that mirror modifier. There we are. So when we try to do this, I think that we can go ahead and give this a double mirror modifier, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't think we need to have differences, not this stage. We don't have to have differences on each of these axes. So we're just going to do a double mirror, and that should save quite a bit of modeling hassle. So here we're going to take this, I'm going to extrude it a little bit. Now we're going to switch over to active element, and we're going to extrude again, but this time we're going to select the top and scale down on the z-axis to create a really basic sort of rise. So see that? I can just move this up, kind of create a situation like this. Oh, that didn't work. Try that again. So today I just finished recording the entirety of the control analysis videos. So unfortunately, the last part of the game doesn't have very much fun architecture in it, which means I could only really talk about the actual design stuff, not the level design, but the story design and so on and so forth. And those really aren't the parts of control I like. So it was a very whiny session. I know that's going to be a shock, me being whiny. Anyway, let's go ahead and create ourselves a nice powered mount for this section, which we'll do by creating another cylinder. Because it's going to be inside of something, we don't have to worry about exactly what it looks like. But what we're probably going to want to do is create some sort of shock. Let me just take a quick little look at my image references here. So it looks like these don't usually have shocks on them. This might have an autoplay media that's making noise. I can't tell you for sure. Yeah, I don't see any shocks. We're just going to copy, for parts of it, we're going to copy this shuttle lift, which is a particular brand. It's a really nice looking lift. It's exactly what I would like. Obviously, we're not going to... It's not going to be a situation where we're copying everything directly or anything. It's just that that's an actual useful mechanical thing. And by looking at how that's built, we can sort of understand how we need to build stuff. So it's largely just a what do you want to call it, a box modeled setup. So we're just going to do box modeling to replicate it. Let me just move that up. And then move that up. And move this in. Now theirs doesn't have this scoop. I spent some time making that scoop, and now we're just going to delete it. So there we are. And instead what they've got is a very slow pan here, like this. And here's a bevel too, something like that. And it's not quite that high, so we'll bring it down. There we are. And then what this is it attaches to the powered motors, which are above. So we're going to take in another cube, bring it on over. I think that most people would try and do this using Boolean modifiers. I'm not doing that because I still haven't figured out how to get them to really work well in Blender. I think the answer is probably to buy an add-on. But every time I've tried to do that, the people who actually make the add-ons have turned out to be real confused assholes. So we're not going to do that anytime soon. I imagine that the marketplace will fix itself pretty quickly here because now that there's more people using Blender, at some point, people are going to have to get their shit together when it comes to marketing. So we'll see. And this actually just comes forward in a nice circular taper. And that said, this isn't entirely how it looks, but it's starting to get sort of on the right track here. If we wanted to really make this look right, we would have to take a circle cut out of this guy. And there's a lot of ways to do that. One way is, of course, to use a Boolean operator. Another way is to simply delete this face and then grab your circle. Hello? There's something wrong with my circle grabbing tools. Oh, it's trying to grab a face, that's why. Well, I guess a face would have been fine. Duplicate that, go over to the active element, boom, and then just merge those two bad boys together. There we are. And then this face can be indented, and there you go. We've got our circular cut. Now the truth is that we don't want a circular cut. We want sort of like a tuning fork style bottom area. So we're gonna just come down here. We're gonna want to cut this face in two. Now we do have some damage in terms of having faces we don't need, but that's no big deal. Just delete them. I wish I hadn't brought this skeleton over. There we are. That's better. So then what we're going to do is extrude this up. And from here, we should be able to just reconstruct this. Reconstruct this set of faces. Excuse me. Trying to think about the best way to do this, and I think we're going to have to do another cut. No, wrong one. My bad. There we are. And then we'll just, this part will go away. also going to get rid of these parts. Cut and merge. This particular point here is probably going to be an issue for us, but we don't care. It's fine for now. Let's go ahead and delete this face. It seems to have undeleted itself at some point. It's fine. And now we can just maneuver this entire thing if we decide it's a little too big or whatever. We'll just select the entire set, but we need to not select this chunk because that chunk is not what we need it for. I don't remember making that cut. Whatever, it's all good. So we'll just move that up. And we'll just select this section here. Of course, that's how it's going to go. There we are. We can shrink that. Let's not shrink it. It looks like it'll be a little bit annoying. That's probably fine for now. We'll deal with it more later. We can always fix it up. What did I just click on? Oh, I clicked on a different tab that I didn't mean to click on. Anyway, from this, what we have is a really, really aggressive, heavy brace. This brace here actually has a cut, and then it goes up. So it's like this. And then the side beam is also quite a heavy brace. So we're gonna see, the problem is we've got a lot of other mesh up there that might give us issues. So we're gonna go ahead and just clear it. So it comes up and then it comes in. And what actually happens is it also becomes narrower when it does this, like this, which is an interesting visual. I'm not actually sure how common that is. I mean, it makes sense because what they do is they're bracing it wide and narrow here. It's actually far narrower than this. I think that we're going to need to put a cut here and then pull this entire set out. And maybe pull this set in. Yeah, it looks like something like this. So what they're doing is they're just changing which axis is the durable axis, because that's where the space is. So then they've got this heavy connector up top. It's not that big a deal. We'll just model it in with a square for now. And then they go up into a really heavy crossbeam. And then down below the crossbeam, they have an I-beam. So we'll model that in as a separate piece of this puzzle. And then we will just cut it into an I-beam like this. Yeah, more or less. And then there's just a heavy U shape where it mounts the crane to. So we'll just model that with a cube. Did I get the... I didn't get the faces. Hold on. All right. And then to model that into something more like what we need, we're going to have to carve it up. And this is very recognizable at this point in terms of it obviously being based on the shuttle lift cranes. Oh, well, that's fine. In terms of detail work, this is actually a considerably more complicated mesh than you might expect. So we're going to go ahead and add that complexity in. One of the things we're going to have to do is delete half of it because we are mirrored on several faces. And we don't need it. There we are. But in this part, what we get is... Oh, that wasn't what we wanted there. Come on. There we are. Like this. Or not even. It's... Yeah, more or less. And they've got these little cables, so we'll put in a circle. I guess a cylinder is a better option there. Oh no, not just randomly. There we are. Turn off clipping for a minute. Turn clipping back on. Oh, no wait, that was a mistake. Now turn clipping back on. Yeah, more or less. And then there are some cables running down from that to a mounting system. So I think that this I-beam... Let's go ahead and widen this rather than shrink the I-beam. There we are. And then what we have here is the crane head actually has the exact same shape. So they fit together. And then we'll just bring it straight down and then invert them. And that is the shape of the crane mount. And you can see that it's huge. It's much too large. So we're going to go ahead and shrink that down. Unfortunately for us, let's just delete it and shrink it down up here instead, because it's a little bit too difficult to do in both places at once. To be honest, I think the entire shebang might just be... Let's undo all of this here. There we are. I think the entire shebang here needs to be smallified. So we're going to just shrink towards the 3D cursor. Put the 3D cursor up there if we can figure out how. I've forgotten how to move the 3D cursor. I don't remember. Fine, be that way. We will simply move it like this. That's not the right axis. Like this. That's better. we'll just rearrange these pieces so that they are more or less correct. Once again, let's duplicate. Now, if we were thinking ahead, what we would have done is simply modeled this as a separate object. But we weren't thinking ahead. Maybe you were. Maybe you've been complaining about the fact that I've been doing it wrong. But alas, it is me doing it, not you. So we're going to have to live with it. Pink Air says, I can never get used to the single viewpoint modeling. I grew up with CAD style. So I could do CAD style stuff. I just haven't found that it's ever really helped. The things I have a hard time with are not the things that the CAD style setup helps with. It's all a matter of how your brain works, right? And my problem is that I have a hard time getting the flow to work within the topology of the object. I get hung up on topology. And unfortunately, that's not something that seeing it from other angles tends to help very much. So, there's the mounting bracket, and then the thing that comes off the mounting bracket is just a frame that goes around the arms of the mech. So what we'll do for that is we'll just duplicate this. Now maybe we won't. Maybe we'll create a new cube. That's fine. Take clipping off for a second here. Turn the clipping back on. Gonna have to delete some faces due to the way that the clipping works. Doom. Deleted. Oh, I've got a headache. And that's going to be the kind of harness that we'll use for the mechs. Oh, we could add more stuff. I don't really feel like it, though. For shape purposes, it's now shaped correctly. There needs to be a lot more detail. Pink Air says he's weaning himself off of ortho views due to procedural stuff. Yeah, I mean, ortho views versus... so there's two things at play here. There's multi-view, where you have like front, side, 4 windows broken out with all the various views. And there's also perspective versus orthogonal. Since most of my modeling is hard surface modeling, machines and stuff, I don't find that perspective helps me. With perspective modeling, well, I guess it doesn't. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter. This is ortho, and you can see the difference. And this is perspective. Which one you prefer really depends on how your brain works, I guess. I prefer to stay in perspective mode most of the time because I get to see how it's going to look in the game. If I'm in ortho, it's easy to think that that I've got the base too big when I'm looking at it like this and stuff. But the camera matters so much that I try to keep it with the same kind of camera as you do in the game. But I don't have any problems with ortho modeling. It's just that it feels like something you do for like level design to me. Like I would think of this as I'm trying to lay out a level, whereas this is I'm trying to create an in-game prop. Although that said, I can't claim that my prop creation skills are worth writing home about. I guess we'll add just a few details here and there, try and get this to look a little bit less clunky. I wish there was a faster way to add certain kinds of details, but I guess if there is, I don't happen to know it. So come up here, add in metal, and we're doing this because I want to make sure that we don't have anything inside out. Yeah. So if we then rotate this on the x-axis by roughly the right amount, it'll be fine. Pink Hair says he actually dug up a bunch of technical drawing work from school, and he has no idea how he managed it with a pencil and a T-square. Yeah, I think that a lot of the OrthoView folks probably used, those kinds of tools at some point, because you can't really do perspective drawing very easily on paper. It's something that takes a lot of effort. But when you're doing 3D modeling, it's exactly as easy. It's just a matter of hitting the 5 button. So we've got a sort of cable design going here. It's very, very primitive, and that's fine. I don't really need it to be terribly good at this point. This is all stuff that can be replaced in a heartbeat later on. But I would like to add just a little bit of flex, so can we not cut this anymore? We can't cut it anymore, damn it. So we're going to undo everything we just did so that we can cut. Hooray. And then we're going to switch this to the inverse square, I think is a good one for this. And then we'll just create some motion here. Good enough. Now, let's go ahead and do the hack that I always do. Add a second material. We don't have a second material that's any good. So we're going to select metal again and then hit plus, and we're going to call this dark. And we're just going to make it something that is not quite as metallic. And we're just going to set up most of these decorations to be that color instead, just so that they stand out. See? Very, very basic way to do things. And we'll do the same with everything here too. Pink Hair says I should cut out the middle of the pillar and fill it with crossbeams. You mean here? I'm actually modeling this off of a real tool, and it doesn't do that. It's not that I don't want to. It's certainly something where that might be worth trying. Shall we just see how it looks? So what we're going to do is we're going to take these two faces and do an inset. You know what? Let's take these 4 faces and do an inset. We're going to want to turn on boundary ignoring. We can just shift these in a little bit, and then we will mark them as connected. Boom. And you can see we've got some spare faces that need to be deleted. Just delete them. Pow. And if we want to have bevels on the top and the bottom, we can do that. There we go. Yeah, and then we can just adjust this guy just a little bit to try and get them to be going around like this. That's not bad. Let's grab this and duplicate it, move it down. And then we can grab this. Come on. There. Pink Air says he's thinking of ones he saw at a train yard once. Yeah. I agree completely. Everything in this is however we want to make it, however we want it to feel. It's nothing where we have to go a specific way. I don't know how heavy these mechs are, from a technical perspective, but I don't think they're as heavy as a train. The crane I'm using as a reference is a 50-ton, I believe. Yeah, 50-ton crane, meaning that it can lift up to 50 tons, not that it weighs 50 tons. And that is a weight that I feel comfortable that these mechs don't exceed. If someone said, do these mechs weigh more than 50 tons? I'd feel comfortable saying, probably not. So the other thing I want to do is add in all of the detail work that should be here and isn't. And the reason I want to do that is because it's freaking gorgeous. So to do that, let's go ahead and just start with some of the piping. I guess we'll start with the machine. We're probably going to have to redo the pipes that we just laid because I think that these pipes overlap with those, and these pipes will win because they're very, very much cooler. They're neater. So what we actually need to do here is cut into this section. Yeah, like this. And then we'll just be deleting like that. So, if you're wondering, this is the size. However, I'm not taking the size from the reference image. I actually can't tell how big the reference image is. There's no easily identifiable landmarks, but I think it's probably smaller than this. I get the feeling that it's yeah, if these are like access ports on the side near the ground, then this is probably about twice the height. So, I mean, we're probably going to want to add some stairs and stuff to this so that it feels like the scale is roughly correct. Either way, let's go ahead and get those pipes running first because I think they look good. As you may know, if you have ever watched any of my videos, I like pipes. So, oh, I grabbed both faces. I didn't want both. There we are, just one. Shrink that way down. So the basic idea is that there is a massive array of pipes that run into a central bump over here. And that's what we're going to be sort of modeling here. And they have a hiccup, a hook. More or less like this. And all we really need to do is take all of them and bevel everything. Unfortunately, we can't do it like that as much as I'd like to. The way that these edge bevels work requires us to bevel the two different axes separately. That is more or less how they look. There are a couple of things that we still need to do. One of those things is to create mounting braces. There are several of them. Come on. There we go. And we also need to create the central bump that these things run into. So we'll just create a cube and then move it into the right spot here. Move it out of alignment. There we go. Join it. Now, these go up in the example image, but since I cut the frame out, it might be better if they go down. Let's test it. Let's see if it feels more natural for them to go down instead of up. You know, I think that does feel better. All right, we'll do that. And unfortunately, you are gonna have to go the way of the dodo. Goodbye. Sorry if I'm quiet today. I have a headache, so I'm trying to concentrate, but it's making me pretty quiet. That's interesting. All right. I keep getting this kind of stupid damage that I didn't expect. I have to be careful about that. So I think I want to cut like a little hole. Like that. And to be honest, I really want to cut this out. Can I just like rip it? I wish that Blender was better about ripping faces. See, I can duplicate it, then move the duplicate away, and then rip it away by just deleting it, and then bring the duplicate back, and it works fine. Why doesn't rip just do that? I don't know. So anyhow, if I were to really subdivide this, I should be able to do some checkerboard selecting here. So select checkerboard, checkerboard, checkerboard. There we are. And then all I need to do is deselect the outer ring. No, I changed my mind. That's not going to work. Okay, well, we'll just do it manually then. Thank you for doing whatever the heck that was. Let's try that again without Blender randomly doing something. Ah, look at that. I chose the wrong number of edges. Did I, though? I don't think I did. Because we're mirrored, see? So this is actually good to bump bump. That's fine. We'll go ahead and keep it like this. I can live with this. Okay, there we are. Extrude in. Select it. And then can we bevel it all? I think that beveling it all might be a little bit too much. What I really want to do is only bevel those edges. It's going to be tough. Let's see if we can get a select similar to work here. No, that's a similar direction. That's a similar length, you think? It's not even close to being the same length. Edge, select similar. Length. Really? Why is it so... There we are. So I've just... That should be everyone. Let's bevel it. All right, look at that. Perfect. So that'll get us some edges like that. Not too bad. If we then select the face here, we can say select similar, polygon sides. There we are. That'll select some stuff on the outside too, and I'm afraid those are going to be the same size regardless. So our better bet is to look at it from above, go into X-ray mode, and select everything on this exact plane, like so. That also for some reason selected that guy and that guy, which were not really on the menu, but that's okay. The reason I did that is because they need to be a different color. Yeah, look, now we're starting to get somewhere. Let's go ahead and remap these pipes. And these. That is like the most primitive engine I've ever built. Look at how that's like, it's kind of like the concept of an engine, you know? It's actually got like a whole bunch more cables and shit going on, but I'm not gonna model that today. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is probably what we need. We will see how it looks in the game world and see whether or not I'm on the right track or I'm just completely off. We'll find out soon enough. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep this up because my head just hurts too much. Alright, so let's go ahead and name this Gantry. We're also going to need to UV unwrap it. And then we're going to want to export it. Unreal Engine 4. Export recursive. Export. 4 assets. No, that wasn't correct. I guess we should mark the reference images here as not for export. Unfortunately for us, that means that we are going to have to re-export the mesh. Sorry, you said some stuff, Pink Hair, and I was looking away. Sorry about that. So sometime in the past decade, Pink Hair said that this is really making him miss having a computer to model on. Yeah, I can understand that. My computer broke not too long ago, and I had to get it fixed. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and temporarily switch you over while I re-export certain files so that we don't accidentally import a damaged mecha that will end up overwriting our existing mecha. I don't want that to happen. It would be a pain in the ass. Although I guess it wouldn't, because it would be a static mesh, not a skinned mesh. So I think they probably would be considered different things, but better safe than sorry. Here we are back in Unreal. Here's the FBX import. SM Gantry, sounds good. Import. All right, so it didn't... Good. It didn't do any damage. So here we are in our, that's a starter content. Test assets. Geometry. Why is everything running so slow? Oh, you're re-importing all of the... That's fine, that's fine. I think it's under test assets. It's re-importing everything in this in the entire game because I told it to. Pinker says, take that baby off-road. Well, in this case, we're going to try taking it on-road, at least temporarily. See how it feels. Yeah, so you can see that that's how it looks. Now, obviously, this material is nothing. So we're going to go ahead and use the same material we use for this, which is machine skin, just to see whether or not it works. Boom. Oh, it is glow in the dark because we use vertex painting. So we can't use machine skin. We'll have to come up with a different material. For now, let's just stick metal back on. We'll do that later. I don't feel like fussing with it at the moment. But you can see that the gantry is roughly the right size. I mean, it's certainly bulky enough that you would buy it as a mech carrying tool. My headache's getting pretty bad. It's going into full-blown migraine mode, so I'm going to have to stop real soon here. Still, you can see the size of the gantry in comparison to the mech. And I think what we'll do is rather than let the mech run through it, we'll probably do something like hang a drop cloth over it, maybe. I'll have to think about how I want it to work. We can also let the mech run through it, I guess. Right now, it seems to be using a bounding box collider, which is fine. But obviously, if we want to be able to walk through it, we're going to need a different approach. That material is not doing it any favors. It looks like it's a Lego bricks. All right, I'll take you up again some other day. I'm going to go take some painkillers.